Springfield's Talk 104.1. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Today is a Wednesday, a couple days away from Friday, which of course means we will be doing the Friday Road Show at Scramblers. You've probably been hearing the ads from Congressman Burleson, who is going to have some of his team members out there. He's going to be buying breakfast for people at Scramblers while we're out there Friday from 6A to 9A. And he was with us talking about this on Monday as well. If you come by and you've got a bumper sticker on your car, then they're going to buy you breakfast. If you don't have one, they'll get you set up with one. And he mentioned that they'll have T-shirts as well. If you'd like to grab one of those, you'll be more than welcome to. So that is going to be going on this Friday while we're out there doing the show between 6A to 9A. Something for you to take advantage of there. Lori Rook will be out there, Ozarks Elder Law. One of the things that she had asked me to pass along is an annual tradition of sorts, if you will, that she and all the other folks, the ladies in white, the gals and guys as well, there at their offices, they work to get Christmas cards to people in nursing homes that might otherwise have absolutely no one reach out to them for Christmas. We really try to hit both ends of the age spectrum. Of course, we do the Santa's Angels, which is still underway, and then Lori Rook and Ozarks Elder Law working to make sure that those who are in nursing homes and may not get visits from family, or they may still have family that's alive, but it's a long drive, and so they make a phone call, or they've given grandma a tablet, and they can do the the Zoom call or a FaceTime call with her. But other than that, 5-minute chaotic conversation with kids playing with toys in the background, no real connection to the outside world. And so they do Christmas cards that go to the folks in the nursing homes, the area nursing homes, and that's where you can help out. And they ask if you would be willing to do some Christmas cards. They can be homemade, they can be purchased Christmas cards. Reach out to them, and they will make sure those get distributed. And it's a great thing if you have Sunday school class or Boy Scouts or a classroom. Maybe you're a teacher, and you've got a class of seniors or fifth graders or kindergartners, whatever age they may be, or even just faculty in the teacher's lounge, having a bunch of Christmas cards that people can sign and write messages that will go to the folks in the area nursing homes. And that is something that, in terms of any details, that's what the Ozarks Elder Law team can make sure to communicate with you. So just reach out to them. Their site, of course, has all of their contact info, ozarkselderlaw.com, and you can also find them under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. I wanted to give you an update on the University of Oklahoma situation with Samantha Fulnecke that began making headlines. Really went big. I'd say it was last week, but it was a couple of weeks prior to that with Christy, who, of course, is the mother of Samantha Fulnecke, on the show talking about Samantha receiving a 0 out of 25 from a TA, a transgender teacher's assistant or assistant professor, not because she did not fulfill the requirements of the assignment, but because, among other things, it was hurtful to the trans community, and she needed to be more thoughtful in giving her opinions about things like gender. And subsequent to that, one of the things that was not making headlines at the time was the fact that left-wingers were already planning protest against Samantha Fulnecke. Now, mind you, this isn't Samantha's not a political person, has no interest in politics, just a student given an assignment asking her opinion to reflect on a paper that was arguing that having a male and female as a gender is a bad thing, and those are just stereotypes, and they're bad. And she was arguing the opposite and using as a reference point for some of it biblical references. And for that, not some activists not out there trying to create any sort of cause, just writing what she was told to write, and that was her opinion on the issue. Protest planned by left-wingers against her. And students were being offered extra credit to go protest against her. I'm sure you can probably imagine, given it's a university in the United States of America, what happened when some students said, so do we get extra credit if we protest against the university or against the TA or in support of Samantha Folnicki? Of course, the answer was no. Well, unless, and this stipulation, that stipulation, and this stipulation, and so forth. So the latest development is the professor that was responsible for the extra credit component to the protest is now facing disciplinary action in relation to the whole scenario. Last week, the school confirmed that teaching assistant Mel Kurth, who uses she, they pronouns, which isn't that a contradiction? Anyway, can't keep up with this nutty stuff. That the teaching assistant who uses she, they pronouns has been removed from the classroom after flunking student Samantha Folnicki on an essay wherein Folnicki invoked her Christian beliefs in the Bible. Now, an assistant teaching professor is accused of viewpoint discrimination stemming from a protest organized to advocate for the return of the transgender student that discriminated against Folnicki. The University of Oklahoma released a statement on social media confirming that a professor, whom it did not identify, offered excused absences. It wasn't extra. There were... This story is referencing excused absences, but there were students that were noting they had been offered extra credit, I believe, to attend as well. But this is the excused absence component to this. So this professor was offering the excused absences to students who wish to join the protest against Folnicki. Turning Point chapter President Khalid Magana reportedly asked for an excused absence to participate in a counter-protest of the same event, according to the group's social media, which identified the professor as Khalil Alvarez. In a later interview with student newspaper OU Daily, Magana reportedly identified Alvarez as his English Composition 2 instructor. Republican State Senator Shane David Jett also said Alvarez was responsible for the alleged discrimination, but Alvarez denied Magana's request unless a, quote, documented group could be organized. Turning Point said on X, Khalid should not be marked absent for showing up as a counter-protester while those in favor are excused. That is discriminatory, the Post said. The professor expected Khalid to organize an entire counter-protest with people confirming they would attend instead of simply allowing him to show up on his own like everyone else. His freedom of speech and his ability to receive an excused absence were made dependent on others agreeing to participate in his counter-protest and share his beliefs. This is incredibly anti-free speech and discriminatory towards an opposing viewpoint. So in other words, what the professor was trying to get a little cute here and trying to discriminate while appearing to not discriminate. The professor was setting up a scenario here in which the professor could argue, oh, I didn't say that the student could not have an excused absence. I simply noted that they actually have to attend what I approve of an officially recognized, coordinated event put on by a group or grouping of individuals. So he was dictating what the circumstance would have to be in order for this student to protest on behalf of Samantha Folnicki. And so what you do is you create these obstacles that others don't have to abide by while saying, well, I didn't say they couldn't do it. I wasn't banning them from doing it. The school responded to the allegation, quote, on Wednesday, a lecturer allegedly demonstrated viewpoint discrimination by excusing students who intended to miss class to attend a protest on campus, but not extending the same benefit to students who intended to miss class to express a counter viewpoint. A school director immediately responded to the situation and, quote, told students in class today and by email that the lecturer's actions were inappropriate and wrong, and that the university classroom exists to teach students how to think, not what to think. The director further stated that any student, regardless of viewpoint, would be excused if absent from class today to attend the protest without penalty, and that the lecturer had been replaced effective immediately for the remainder of the semester, the school said, adding that it unequivocally supports the director's decision to remove the professor. The professor was also placed on administrative leave pending further investigation. Quote, classroom instructors have a special obligation to ensure that the classroom is never used to grant preferential treatment based on personal political beliefs, nor to pressure students to adopt particular political or ideological view, the school stated. The university declined to comment further. And Alvarez, too, did not respond to a request for comment. That appears to be an appropriate response for the given scenario. The only thing that I would disagree with, the only aspect of this, I wouldn't give excused absences to anyone for attending a protest. I just wouldn't, because this is sort of the scenario that you end up in. And you know, do a protest outside of your classroom time. Or if it's that meaningful to you, take the unexcused absence. This is something particularly on the left, but not solely on the left. This desire to engage in protest that seem meaningful without actually having any skin in the game whatsoever. This desire to really show up and stick it to the man and have our voices heard, but, well, I don't want to have to sacrifice anything for it. I mean, let's not go that. I shouldn't have to take take the unexcused absence. If it's that meaningful to you, then you should be willing to sacrifice that, whatever the issue is. It's called decision-making in life. Because you start, I don't know, it just seems silliness to me. And then you could have a protest, you just don't want to go to class one day. You know what, we're going to have a protest against whatever it may be. Rape culture on campus. You know, you could pick some left-wing issue that they oftentimes run with and over-exaggerate, or, you know, whatever it may be. It could be anything under the sun, because you can't give viewpoint discrimination component, you know, plays into it. And so you could just start any and every time you don't want to have to go to class, you just, you know what, I'm going to have a protest. Well, I guess we got to give you an excused absence on that. Just don't give them to anyone. That's my thought on it. Springfield's Talk 104.1. We've got traffic coming up, weather too. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 48.
Someone had texted in regarding the excused, unexcused absence situation at the University of Oklahoma, saying, wait a minute, there's attendance being held in college. Not back in my day. They did not care if you showed up or not. That's how it was for me, too. I don't know if this is something new. And then I thought to myself, well, maybe I am misremembering. But the way I remembered it is they didn't care whether you showed up or not. I mean, you're great. You're paying the money. You want to never show up and flunk the class, whatever. They don't, that was just sort of the attitude. That was one of the cool things about being in college. Like, I don't even have to go to class. I don't get a detention for it. So I don't know if that is. Did you have when? I mean, you weren't in. It wasn't that long ago for you. You were going to college.
Yeah, I don't think they took attendance, but we also had excused absences if we wanted to protest. One of which being there was a pro-abortion rally that was
Oh,
taking place in
was it
downtown
Shuri?
Springfield. Yes, it
Of
was.
course, yeah.
And so,
Jeez.
yeah, we got excused absences if we wanted to go to that protest. Now, mind you, this was like 6 years ago, but yeah, it was me and like 3 other students that showed up to class for that day. We're like, no, we're not going to that. No.
I mean, how hilarious is that? You get an excused absence if you go. This would have been World War II. You get excused absence if you go protest the right to, exterminate the Jews. Yeah, just okay. That's classy. Isn't jury supposed to be sort of a religious?
Oh, it
basic?
is.
Oh,
Yeah, it's supposed to be.
That's certainly in God's vision what that was. But yeah, so I'm wondering even what the excused, unexcused, what that even means.
I would assume that they do take some type of attendance, but
Because
I
who
don't know.
cares? Like even if you never show, I don't know how that would. I don't know how one would never show up, and still, other than taking tests and turning in whatever quote homework you may have, assignments. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're making the grade, who cares if you show up
Yeah.
or not? Anyway, I don't know. University life, not for me.
Ooh,
Yes, nice. It's very nice.
I like it.
Hmm. Last night, the girl child had what is it? The master something or other. It's a choir performance. It was Mozart's Requiem, and they had some orchestra there and soloist, and it was at the First and Calvary Presbyterian Church, which is right next to Juanita K on campus. And last year it was at a different church downtown. They have to find these venues because it's just a nice setting for a Christmas performance, but seating capacity. The last Republic prior to this choir performance, and it's a decent sized theater. It was so full. There were people that didn't get in.
Wow.
My wife and I got there, and there was no seating, and so we thought, well, we'll stand outside. And she's in, I don't know, they've got different choirs, and so they'll be like the freshmen, and then they get down, and then you got this division of choir come up, and so there's a lot of point being is your kid probably isn't going to be in the whole thing, and so we were like, well, let's just step out in the hall and wait till she comes on. And then I kind of snuck back in at one point, and there just wasn't room for her. And I don't know what they're going to do. She says the problem is they let too many kids in choir. But it does look like, are there any kids not in choir in the Republic School? There's like, I swear, every kid in the entire school is up on the stage whenever they do the full end where they got the freshmen and everybody together. But anyhow, this performance last night, I'm thinking to myself, either I don't remember correctly, or when I was in high school, the level of performance of choir was nowhere near what I'm observing with the performance of the Republic High School Choir. And I did think, I wonder if other high schools are there. I mean, they're just amazing. And I'm thinking to myself, I swear when I was in choir, we were doing like Under the Sea. I specifically remember we did a Disney montage, and, just it almost really campy compared to some of the stuff. Now, this obviously was a Christmas performance, and so the theme is somewhat baked in, if you will. I mean, it wasn't Christmas in the sense of, Oh Holy Night and so forth. You're talking Mozart Requiem, but it was just an amazing performance, and I thought to myself, well, even their theater performances, because the girl child does all of the sound directing. She develops the sound. So that's what she does for the theater. And so we go to all the performances. And during the last one, at times, because you're watching and you're like, oh, this, and you sort of maybe critique things, and I had to remind myself, these are actually high school kids, because some of the performers, particularly the female side, are so amazing that I forget it's high school sometimes, and I have to remind myself of that. And I just look back to when I was in high school, and I'm thinking, either the Carthage class of 95 was not that talented at all, or things have really leveled up, or I don't know, maybe Republic's just fantastic when it comes to the arts. I don't have the experience of, really visiting other high school performances to do compare and contrast, but it was an amazing performance. The Christmas music triggered that thought for me. That's why I thought I'd share. All right, coming up, Pete Buttigieg, according to polling, is less popular with black people than an ex-Klan leader. This is such a hilarious juxtapositioning, but it says a lot about not the Democrat Party so much, but culturally the black population in this country. That it's this uncomfortable, unspoken component to the Democrat voting base that Democrats don't ever really want to talk about. That in just a couple of moments. A traffic update now. I'm Nick Reed.
Field's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by JNS Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 48.
I don't even know what Christmas song that was. I know it was Elvis, but I couldn't.
Oh, no, I didn't have my headphones on.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't
no.
know what it was. If I had just heard that in the background, I would have not even. I don't know that I would have known it was.
I think
Christmas.
I have like 2 or 3 in there for Elvis, so I don't know. I'll have to look.
I wanted to read to you what Chad recently said about Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Said, I can't say enough good things about her. We were in the market for such a long time, and she was patient, helpful, went far beyond what our other realtor we've worked with has gone to make sure we got into a great home. She helped find the right contractor, get our place updated, made all the paperwork a breeze. She negotiated hard when we needed it, and she got us a great price on our home our whole family loves. Thank you so much, Emily. How long did it take for you to finally find your home with Emily?
A little over 2 years.
2 years. And
Yeah.
who was the most patient one that did not give up?
Emily Johnson.
I remember those 2 years.
It was
We're
so
just never going to
stressful.
find a place. We're just never going to find. I'm just beginning to think that our place does not exist. I remember you saying
It's true, and I didn't even have that long of a wish list. I wanted north of Springfield with acreage, and then I started creeping back into Springfield. I'm like, oh, well, I guess we don't really need acreage. No, Emily made sure we got it.
Yep, she did. She's fantastic. She's dedicated. And what I do also really appreciate about her is the longer you look, the more you are willing to start sacrificing on things that you told yourself. And she reminds you of that. Because you're like, oh, we'll just, we've been looking forever. Well, maybe we don't need that extra room. Maybe we this or that. And of course, it's your decision ultimately, but she's not there just to sell something as quickly as possible or to get you into something. She'll remind you, now listen, I know you've been looking a long time, but when we first got together, these things were important to you. You need to keep that in mind. She's just great. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Some of your text messages from the Pyramid Roofing Company or Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. From the app, I feel the same way about high school kids singing. There is no way when I was in high school that we could have sung, Sondheim, I think this is what they're talking about. I think that's what it says. Let's see. You're lucky to have such an amazing choir for the girl child. Smaller schools here have 8 to 9 total students in the choir. Holy cow. Not because of school size, really just lack of interest. Sad. Yeah, I mean, we've joked. The first performance that we went to, she wasn't she sort of fell into choir because one of her best friends was in it, and she was, again, involved in theater, and she ended up, I think, just hanging out after school during choir practice or something with one of her best friends, and I think she had encouraged, her best friend had encouraged the girl child, like, you should try it. It just sort of happened, and so she was real late to actually joining the world of choir, and so we just weren't aware of the level of involvement of students, and so the first performance we went to, you think, oh, it's the whole choir. This is, and then like, oh, these are just the freshmen, and then they go, and then they got this other group, and then they go, and then at the end, every performance, they have everyone perform together, and I genuinely think those risers are going to collapse. I cannot believe how many people there are. Every single kid in the school must be in this choir. I've never seen anything like it before. It's pretty hysterical, but I don't see it as a negative at all. I think it's a positive thing. Although venues do become a challenge because every venue, that performance, they had sent out an email. They're like, it's sold out. And, in fact, they said we may have to get creative with seating because of the volume of people that purchase tickets. And it's not even a free event. You're purchasing tickets, which I don't mind. It's a great performance. But, you pay to see games usually. And so it's pretty much in line with that. It's a good thing. And they do a great job. It's different if they weren't that good, but because they're incredible. Pete Buttigieg, less popular with black people than literal ex-KKK leader. I just think this is great. Now, this. Let me tell you why this story is being written. Pete Buttigieg is a homosexual, if this is something you were not aware of. And culturally speaking, the black community in America has not warmed up to the approval level of homosexuality that other demographics have. That's just the way it is. And this is something that the Democrat Party and the media, because they're part of the Democrat Party, they don't like to talk about. Because they, of course, portray conservatives and Republicans as being homophobic. But the single largest, if you're just looking at numbers and their definition of homophobia, the single largest, most homophobic demographic in our country is solidly Democrat, and that is the black population. It's similar to what the anti-Semitic relationship in this country. They, for a very long time, got away with portraying conservatives and Trump as being anti-Semitic. After October 7th, it would become undeniable. Anti-Semitism is very alive and very strong in the Democrat Party. We saw that on college campuses, and of course, you can go down the listing of examples that demonstrate the anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party. And so October 7th really opened the eyes of the American people regarding where anti-Semitism is and the misdirection that we had been subject to for a very long time regarding where anti-Semitism actually was. Well, when it comes to homophobia, in quotes, but the way that the left defines homophobia, and that is essentially if you aren't on board with the LGBTQ movement and fully supportive of it and, heck, even engaged in it, then you're homophobic. Well, the black population is the most homophobic demographic in this country, and what demographic is more Democrat than the black population? There isn't one. I mean, if you're looking at the numbers. Well, that's an uncomfortable situation for the Democrat Party, isn't it? That's why they don't talk about it. It has come up a few times because of Pete Buttigieg. This acknowledgement has existed, and it was during the period of time that he was running for president, and polling gets done, and there is this uncomfortable reality when polling is broken down by demographic, and here's Pete Buttigieg and, men and women and age demographic and economic background, race. Oh, wait a minute. Black people hate this guy. Wonder why that is. And the fact that, now, if he were a Republican, you could write it off. Even though increasingly the black population is awakening, if you will, and recognizing that the Democrat Party may not be the best place for them, and so they are beginning to shift over to be more potentially Republican. We were just seeing that slow shift occur. But aside, from that, you could almost write off the lack of support for Pete Buttigieg if he were Republican or conservative, but he's a Democrat. And so if you take a listing of Democrats and you do polling amongst black voters in this country, specifically Democrats, by the way, which of course overwhelmingly they're Democrat anyhow, but black voters, and you're going to have Kamala Harris, high approval rating. You're going to have Joe Biden, high approval rating. Gavin Newsom, high approval rating. Pete Buttigieg, zip zero, literally zero sometimes. Well, why is that? This story notes, and I'm going to read to it. There was a guy that some of you, the name you'll be familiar with, some of you will not. His name was David Duke. He ran for president 2 or 3 different times. He ran for governor in Louisiana. He's a former member of the Klan. And because of that, and because he ran at, I want to say he may have run as a Democrat or independent at one point, but there was a period of time where he was running as a Republican. So this, of course, helped the Democrat narrative. And they made such a big deal out of him to the point when he was running in a primary, David Duke, for governor in Louisiana, George H.W. Bush, who was president at the time, I think this was the late 80s, felt compelled to publicly denounce David Duke because, of course, the media, this is what they would do. They would run around demanding that every Republican answer for the fact that this former Klans member is running on their ticket. Now, mind you, at the same time, You had people like Robert Byrd, Democrat senator, who was a former, what do they call, Grand Klugel or something. He was an actual recruiter for the Klan, not just a membership-only guy, but he was one of those out there really hard. Where this was that guy was a sitting U.S. senator through the 90s as a Democrat. But David Duke was a Republican. So he got all the headlines. Oh, they would interview him left and right. You're a Republican. A Republican David Duke, Klansman. Republican David Duke, Klansman. Well, Daily Caller did some juxtapositioning here and found that David Duke polled better back when he was running than Pete Buttigieg polls when it comes to black people. Black people would have rather have had a member of the Klan represent them than they would Pete Buttigieg. Duke launched this is a period of time when Duke was running for U.S. Senate. And he ran, this is 2016 when he most recently ran in the Senate, for the Senate. It was his third failed attempt at becoming a U.S. Senator. Duke also mounted 2 presidential runs, both of which obviously failed. Duke received a favorability rating from about 16% of black respondents. 16%. That, according to a statewide survey of Louisiana likely voters conducted July 27th, 28th, and 2016. The University of New Orleans polled 614 respondents, yielding a margin of error of 3.95%. More blacks than whites favored Duke at 16 to 14%. Make sense of that. More black people, he had a higher approval rating amongst blacks than whites. About 14% of black respondents said that they would cast their vote for Duke in the then upcoming Senate primary, according to the poll. Duke would receive about 3% of the overall vote in the primary, according to Ballotpedia. There has been a Yale youth poll that has asked 3,426 registered voters, quote, if the 2028 Democratic presidential primary were held today, and these were your candidates, which candidate would you choose? Gavin Newsom was in there, Ocasio-Cortez, Kamala Harris was in there. Demographically speaking, Pete Buttigieg got 4% of the black vote. He performed better among whites, securing 17% of the white vote in a hypothetical primary. So, again, we're not talking about in the 50s or the 60s, or we're talking about 2016. Now imagine this. You're Pete Buttigieg. And you want to be president of the United States. And what is considered to be, when you look at margins, one of the most significant and important demographics in your political party, the black population, and they would rather see a former Klansman, David Duke, in office than you as a homosexual. You pull back just a little bit and you think about the state of the Democrat Party today. The party that we're told is the antithesis of racist and homophobic Republicans. You have Pete Buttigieg, that even if he does, and he's going to run for president again. For him, his single biggest challenge in the primary amongst Democrat black voters is the fact that he's gay. There's been some polling that shows he literally has 0% support amongst blacks. You also have what is a very viable presidential potential candidate and should have been Kamala Harris's pick for vice president, Josh Shapiro. What's the problem with him that Democrats have? He's Jewish. We live in a world in which, though they've lost the narrative on anti-Semitism, but we were to believe that Republicans were the party of anti-Semitism and homophobia, and the Democrats were the party of compassion and coexistence. Yet here you have two individuals, a homosexual, whose biggest obstacle is their voting bloc, his own voting bloc, within the Democrat Party, the black population, and then you have Josh Shapiro, who, because he's Jewish, faces his own voting bloc of Democrat voters. Now, you tell me which party is the party of bigotry. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. I have really mismanaged time this hour, so we're going to have to jump to traffic again here right away, and then maybe even again before. I apologize for that. Time got away from me. It got out of control. There's a couple of stuff that will just give you a heads up. Some of the things we're going to cover, and if you miss it, of course, we'll have the podcast. But there is yet another. These people on the left. There is a photo circulating that is supposed to be J.D. Vance wearing just an undershirt in a restaurant, yelling at his wife. Have you seen this?
No.
This is so hysterical because it's just so. Everything about it is lunacy and absurd. But the left, they believe anything. I don't know if it's like an AI Photoshop thing or if it's a picture of someone that really looks like him or what. It's some left-wing attorney that has really been pushing it, some gal who uses, has her special pronouns and everything. So, of course, J.D. Vance is poking fun at it. Then at the same time, there's a viral clip going around of Gavin Newsom and Tim Walz on this like Zoom thing together. I don't know, podcast or whatever it is. Maybe it's Newsom's podcast, where they're talking about masculinity. And the fact that these two are even talking about it. But the combination, I swear I thought it was AI at first. The combination of Gavin Newsom doing the weird thing with his hands, and then Tim Walz is going on and on about like it sounds like he's trying to push back against this cliche of him being overly masculine. He's like, I'm not just some hunter. I'm not just some guy that can fix a truck. Like, nobody thinks this about you. It is the most hysterical thing. So that is all to come. Springfield's Talk 1041. Santa's Angels is still underway. We still have kids to be adopted. Uh, we've got 4 partner locations for the adoptions themselves: Crown Power and Equipment, Mexican Villa, South Campbell, Greene County Freight and Food Sales, and Pinnaker Chevy on 60 in Republic. So it's a real convenient location. Those of you that commute in or out of Springfield, maybe you're Monette, Aurora, Billings, Clever, you hit 60 to get there, wherever it is that you're going along. Or if you live in Republic, of course, it's convenient for you as well. So big thank you to the Pinnaker family for making that location possible. We ask that what our goal is to have all of the kids adopted by the end of this week. That way, we feel pretty confident that all of the gifts will be in by next week on the due date. We've got all those details on each of the children tags on the trees, and then also at ksgf.com. And a big thank you to the overall sponsor, Wheeler Metals, as they are helping make sure that these kids have, for the first time, many of them, that feeling of somebody actually cares about me specifically. Santa's Angels at ksgf.com. mentioning earlier this article in Daily Caller noting that Pete Buttigieg has anemic, if that, support amongst the black community. And it's something Democrats don't want to talk about. A lot of people don't know this because the media won't talk about it. And that is, amongst all the demographics in this country, the black population is the least favorable when it comes to, or has the least favorable thoughts and feelings when it comes to homosexuality. And this is extremely harmful to Pete Buttigieg. And they noted that David Duke, who was a former Klans member, when he was running for the U.S. Senate in Louisiana, had support amongst the black community of, I think it was 14%, whereas Pete Buttigieg gets anywhere between 0 and 4%, a Klansman. And I noted that the Democrat Party, of course, is the party of racism. People just don't know it because they all cover for it, much like they did anti-Semitism until October 7th. And I noted Robert Byrd being one of the, quote, most respected members of the Senate, who was a literal Grand Clegan, I think is what he was called. He was not just a member of the Klan, but he was highly respected, and he was a recruiter for the Klan. And one of you had texted in accurately, he wasn't just a sitting senator, he was a Senate Democrat majority leader for 30 years, and he was. And when he died, you would have thought, it was a president who died. I mean, the way the Democrats and I remember Bill Clinton speak. I mean, they just gushed over this guy. But you look at Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. I mean, part of her goal was to eliminate black people, and that's someone Hillary Clinton said she admired not just her action, but her, quote, vision. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
He says prices are too high, but Mr. Trump says that's because of the economic train wreck that was the Biden administration. President Trump says he's working to get that train righted and back on the tracks.
We're bringing those prices down rapidly, lower prices, bigger paychecks. You're getting lower prices, bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation. We're crushing it. And you're getting much higher wages.
Mr. Trump speaking at last night's massive rally in Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania. In the aftermath of Bidenomics, more people have been turning to GoFundMe for help with basic needs, things like housing and food.
The crowdfunding platform's annual report, released on Tuesday, shows a 20% increase in fundraisers for essentials. The year-end help report also shows that monthly bills were the second fastest growing category in 2025. GoFundMe says people around the world find themselves struggling with the rising cost of living, but notes that in those cases, people step up and offer their support. Bob Agnew reporting.
Following yesterday's deadly shooting on the Kentucky State University campus in Frankfort,
one individual who is not a Kentucky State University student is in custody. Frankfort police believe this to be an isolated incident, and there are no active safety concerns on campus at this time.
Frankfort Assistant Police Chief Scott Tracy, heard there on WTVQ-TV, says the suspect, a 48-year-old Indiana man. One person was killed, another injured. Miami voters have elected Eileen Higgins mayor. First time in close to 30 years a Democrat has been elected mayor of Miami. On Wall Street this morning, a check of stock futures. The Dow futures down 42 points, while the NASDAQ futures are off 65. S&P futures 8 points in the red. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-524-4948. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-524-4948. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-524-4948. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-524-4948 or biglou.com.
Renewed border fighting between Thailand and
Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. I want a great homeloan.com for all of your home loan needs. You got the Carricker folks. Oh, yesterday I talked about Alex and Anthony Carricker and how one of them should be at Scramblers on Friday. And I got a text from Don. Don's like, you know what? Maybe I'll be there as well.
Oh,
so, yeah.
good. I haven't seen him in such a long time.
I know. I have not seen him. And I think I mentioned I had talked with him before Thanksgiving. I think it was right before Thanksgiving. And we noted, like, gosh, we haven't seen each other forever. And he goes, yeah. He said, ever since I retired, it's getting up early enough and driving in.
Him.
And he's doing a lot of babysitting for
That's
the grandchild or one or more. I don't know how many. But so, yeah, it'll be nice if he does make it out there. Maybe it'd be like 8:59. We'll just barely get to see him. Unless he'll get there early.
We'll get to see him regardless.
Yeah,
This is 8:59.
Yeah, indeed. And at least one of the other characters, Anthony, Alex, and great opportunity to pick their brains if you have any questions about the market and should we wait and the interest rate drop. What difference is that going to make? There are a lot of these conventional wisdom thoughts that are incorrect. In fact, they run counter to what actually happens oftentimes. And so when you are gauging your decisions in terms of refinancing or reverse mortgage or buying a home, moving in or out of the city, whatever it is you're looking to do, but you're gauging it based off of what's going on right now with the world and the housing market, just talk with them, let them know your thoughts, because I can almost guarantee you they will have some insight that you probably are not aware of. And it may not change your position on things, but it certainly isn't going to hurt. And if you aren't able to stop by and chat with him in real person, face-to-face interaction at an event like a Friday Road Show, just reach out to him. You can get a hold of him anytime. Their contact info is at iwantagreathomeloan.com. You can also find that info under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. There is a viral clip going around of Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom talking about masculinity. I mean, you just couldn't have two better people. I mean, they could have thrown Pete Buttigieg in there. That may have fit the bill as well because he has a beard. I think he still has the beard. He's okay. This is Gavin Newsom. This is evidently back in March that this conversation took place. For whatever reason, it now is really circulating. It's getting legs. And I understand why it is, because you've got, again, these two individuals. It's the Democrat Party grappling, apparently, with what is just instinctually understood by normal people, and that's what masculinity is. You can, of course, have varying degrees of how it presents itself, but it's like in that Supreme Court decision decades ago, pornography. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. You can look at a guy and you can, okay, yeah, that guy is masculine, that guy is not. Or that guy is kind of masculine. And then you can have some where you can debate, do you think he's masculine? He's not. Well, he's kind of, I don't think he is. And it's not just physique. It's an attitude. It is a belief system. There is a lot that comes along with masculinity. So to listen to Democrats who have spent years characterizing masculinity as something that's bad, something that's toxic, to the point that if you're a man and you simply try to help, offer information, free exchange of ideas to somebody who is a woman, that's a bad thing. You are mansplaining. They gave a name to it, to demonize a person who happens to be a man providing information to a person who happens to be a woman. Well, and then they're shocked as to the fact that men increasingly go, yeah, I don't really like that very much. I think I'm not going to support you any longer. I think I'm going to go and support the people and vote for the people who don't always trash on me, who don't claim my sheer existence is toxic, who also, by the way, don't claim that if some woman accuses me of rape or sexual assault or sexual harassment without any evidence or proof whatsoever, that you should just believe her because I'm a guy. You think about the hostility that the Democrat Party has created against people who happen to be men just because they're men, and it is hilarious that they then find themselves confused as to why is it that we've lost such support amongst men. It's like the Klan sitting around trying to figure out why is it that black people don't support us. Well, gee whiz, wonder why. So them then trying to win that back, and it's just, I find the whole conversation hysterical. Now, I'm going to play this audio for you, and the audio is good for a number of reasons, but you have to watch the visuals, particularly for Gavin Newsom. Have you seen the visuals on this yet?
I'm watching it
All
right
right.
now.
I mean, the visuals, I don't understand what this thing is. He's got this thing with his hands, and he just does this weird thing, and he does it during this clip as well. So it's a pretty short clip. It's only 30 seconds, and they're sitting around, the brain trust that they are between the two of them, talking about the issue of masculinity. Now, again, this is back in March.
But I think this notion of toxicity and masculinity needs to be separated, and I think it's been conflated, and I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on it. No, I'm serious, because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshit on this. Yeah. I'm not putting this in people's grill. I don't know if my identity is not hunting. My identity is not football coaching. My identity is not, a beard and a truck.
Did you say I'm not trying to put this in my grill? Is that,
yeah. You scare me because
is this like street talk? Is that what he's trying to do here?
People.
Everything about these people is fake. And you're going to have anyone who is in the world of politics that is fake to some degree. But on the Democrat side, they expose themselves as being fake just all the way through, to where it's laughable. They are so fake, they lose connection as to what is going to seem absurdly fake, right? They can't even gauge, like, all right, well, I don't want to say this because that's just too obvious. They're so detached from any authenticity, they can't even recognize, yeah, you probably shouldn't say that because it's obvious that that's not a genuine thought or a genuine culture reference for you. It sounds as if we're going to take a break, and I'm going to play that audio again, that Tim Walz actually is he is pushing back on what he claims is this cliched perception of him being this overly masculine guy, that all you see is a hunter, all you see is a guy that's fixing trucks all day, all you see is, I mean, basically a guy that is in those cologne commercials that they run ad nauseum leading up to Christmas, where he's got the wet T-shirt and the abs, and he's got the seawater dripping from his head, and he's just so cut, and like he's just godlike in his physique. That form of masculinity, poor Tim Walz, he gets saddled with that, and so he has to fight back against it. We've got the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 48.
A podcast clip from earlier this year featuring Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom going viral again because it's comedy gold. The two Democratic governors sat down for an episode of This Is Gavin Newsom back in March. During their 50-minute conversation, they briefly shared their thoughts on masculinity. And you'll hear, this is another part that's funny. At one point, so you've got Gavin Newsom, and he's talking about masculinity and how some people conflate toxicity with masculinity, which is, of course, that's the theme with the Democrat Party. But he's like, we really need to separate those things. So Tim Walz jumps in and says, well, I think some of us scare them. He's talking about masculinity. Now, you can see it, but you can hear Gavin Newsom starts to laugh. He thinks Tim Walz is joking. Tim Walz is not joking. Tim Walz he's arguing, whether he actually believes it or not, and he probably does, that in his mind, the reason that a lot of particularly conservative guys, I guess, don't like him is because they're threatened by his masculinity. And he goes on to push, he acts as if he's resentful of the fact that he is a cliche of masculinity, that I'm more than just a guy that can fix a truck. I'm more than just a guy that's a hunter. Here's the exchange between the two.
But I think this notion of toxicity and masculinity needs to be separated. And I think it's been conflated. And I think we're going to have to work on that a little bit. And I think there is a crisis.
I think some of us scare them. I think I scare them a little bit why they spend so much time on it. No, I'm serious, because I can fix a truck. They know I'm not bullshit on this. Yeah. I'm not putting this in people's grill. I don't know if my identity is not hunting. My identity is not football coaching. My identity is not, a beard and a truck.
I'm more than just a piece of meat.
Yeah, I'm more than your eye candy. I have jazz hands, you know. What is it? I feel as if he constantly goes back to fixing a truck thing. In my mind, he's a guy that managed to add oil on his own to his truck at one point, and suddenly he was so pleased with himself with that accomplishment, and that he's like, yeah, I was out putting oil in my truck the other day, you know.
Add it to his list. It's like, put that on my list of masculine things.
Yeah, so like every Saturday now he goes out, he's got in front of the mansion while people are driving by screaming retard at him.
He always Did you watch that video I sent you the other day of somebody doing that?
Yes. I mean, you're right. That's a sure sign that people are intimidated by your masculinity as they drive by your house and scream retard at you while they're driving by. Clearly, you are very intimidating. So he's out there. He successfully, somebody showed him, or he got online, figured out how to check his oil because it's burning up oil, and he did it once successfully. And so like every Saturday he goes out there and lifts up the train. He goes out there and checks the oil, does it real slow, make sure waves to the neighbors while he's doing it. Like, look at me. You just get the sense that happened, something like that happened, or the windshield washer fluid, or he changed his wipers. He did something. So that's always like, yeah, but just because I can fix a truck, they're intimidated. That I am masculine because I can fix a truck. He talks about it an awful lot. That is his go-to. These people are hysterical. They are such an absolute joke. In a funny way, they really are caricatures. Gavin Newsom's instinct was to laugh, and he did it. He laughed at Tim Walz when Tim Walz started explaining that he thinks people are intimidated by him because he's so masculine. This is Jazz Hands guy. Have you seen those montages of him? Usually ABBA is the bed of music that plays under it, where it's a montage of him coming out. He's waving those jazz hands and throwing those little stubby arms up in the air, and he's got that goofy grin on his face like he's some sort of clown that left the makeup bag behind. Oh, boy. Whew. The contradiction, however, I was just having this discussion, I don't even recall, we were talking about just all the massive corruption in Somalia and the $1 billion+ flowing to all of these nefarious places, and you're talking about a lot of this, just very, very bad and evil people. When you understand Somalia and how Somalia runs and how that has been imported into areas of the United States of America. And instead of that Somalian culture being left behind, it has been brought and accommodated by people like Tim Walz. And so you have these massive amounts of fraud, this pure evil that is occurring, this dark corruption, because of the fact that much of this money is just in all likelihood going to terrorism. In your mind, when that script is written, the person who presides over it, the governor of the state, is some scary figure. Maybe in public they're very charismatic, but then behind the scenes, you don't mess with this guy. This is a guy that can have you offed if need be. This is a guy you don't want to mess with him. He's got allies within the Somalia gang community, and some of his biggest allies and supporters were former gun runners out of Somalia and gang leaders and so forth. There's just very, very dangerous people. And so that's how the script gets written, when you have that sort of scenario play out, and this very nefarious figure that is charismatic yet very frightening as governor presiding over it all. But in reality, it's Tim Walz, like this clown, a guy who has, it's crazy. But it makes sense at the same time. In reality, if you are looking to control someone, if you are looking to get away with corruption, Tim Walz would be a great guy to have governor. He's ineffective. He's weak. Apparently no moral character. But he thinks a lot of himself. And somebody who thinks a lot or is insecure and they want to think a lot of themselves, those are very, very easy people to manipulate because you can easily feed into that to control them. And so it's kind of a wake-up call that what in our minds we oftentimes imagine as the people at the top of these massive dark corruption enterprises as being these movie-like figures that you see in a Batman movie, when in fact, in reality, oftentimes it's often just a clown, some insecure little clownish guy like Tim Walz, who almost could have been vice president of the United States. This is the guy that, again, Kamala, this is according to Tim Walz. That's why he was picked, because of his masculinity to run alongside her. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. We're going to get a traffic update, and then we've got some, I want to hold the audio until after we do weather here. We just have 90 seconds after traffic, and then we will have some of the audio of what Tim Walz is referencing. Listen, here's the thing. Tim Walz claimed after Trump said that he was retarded, that people were driving by his house yelling retarded. And, which, by the way, this is a weird thing to talk about because to me, I'm trying to think how best to describe this. It isn't calling him that name that's funny. It's the fact that people are doing it. And I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? It's sort of almost like the humor in The Office, whereas it was like a lot of this stuff like, oh, you couldn't do that today, and Michael Scott said this, and his character said that. It's not that he believes the things. It's that somebody would, or that they, that because it is so inappropriate, the fact that somebody would say that or do that, that is where the humor is. It's not the content itself, but the fact that somebody thinks it's appropriate to do the content.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people understand that. Others don't necessarily, and I understand not understanding that. And some people will say, okay, I understand what you're saying, but still it's not funny. To me, it's the Tim Waltz component to it all that makes it funny. And Trump saying that he believed he was retarded, and then Tim Waltz getting so upset about it and claiming that people were driving by his house yelling retard. And at the time I was like, I don't know whether this is true or not, but I could see it just because people think it's funny to do. And I noted, though, how you'd think he'd have some, I don't know, ring cam video of it. He didn't appear to have any. Videos did start popping up of it happening, but it was the people doing it, recording themselves doing it, popping it up. So anyhow, some of your text messages and one of the bits of audio, so you just have a sense of what Tim Waltz is going through as he's checking the oil in his car in the driveway there at the old mansion in Minnesota. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 104.1, the first alert forecast from Ozarks' first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 48.
Some of your text messages regarding Gavin Newsom, Tim Waltz. There is a video circulating that is actually from March, in which Tim Waltz was a guest on Gavin Newsom's show, his podcast, and they were talking about masculinity, and Gavin Newsom talking about how they need to really, the people have conflated toxicity with masculinity by people, that would be the Democrat Party, and how they need to fix that, and Tim Waltz stepped in saying that I think people are intimidated by me, and Gavin Newsom started to laugh, and Tim Waltz is like, no, I'm serious, and he began complaining about how he's saddled with the stereotype of being masculine, and he's like, I'm more than somebody that can just, coach a football team and go hunting and fix a truck, and he apparently is upset that people just view him stereotypically as being so masculine. And then we merged into the discussion of people driving by his house and screaming retard at his house while filming it. Sent from the app, nothing more masculine than two guys sitting around whining about being misidentified. Another, and this is a play off of the controversy where Pete Hegseth had a, Franklin the Turtle cover of that was referencing the taking out of narco terrorist. And this is Franklin drives by Tim Walt's house, and Tim is on the front lawn, and then you've got Franklin the turtle driving by saying, "Hey, retard," with an exclamation point. Regarding Tim Waltz being someone who he loves to remind people that he can fix a truck, he hit the clear codes button for the check engine light at AutoZone. Someone else noted he probably aired up his tires. You figured maybe he just filled up his own gas.
Yeah.
That is his
That his
version.
wife forgot to fill it up for him.
He's like, I really took care of that.
Yep.
Somebody texting in his identity is pedo face. And I think that's what we have in terms of that. All right, so I have not heard this audio. You said the way that all of this has rolled out, I find to be somewhat humorous, and I sort of hesitate to talk about it because I'm not one who thinks that utilizing the terminology referencing those who have mental disabilities as a way to insult people, I don't find it very becoming. It's not my cup of tea. It has become funny to me, not because of the fact that Trump referenced Tim Waltz in that manner, but the reaction to it and the way that Tim Waltz has reacted to it, and the fact that in reaction to Tim Waltz's reaction, people have taken to driving by his home and yelling, because Tim Waltz did a press conference like, "You won't believe what's happening. People are driving by my house and yelling retard at my house. Have you ever heard of such a thing?" Now, this is a guy who comes from a political party that calls Trump supporters Nazis and the Gestapo and destroyers of democracy. So you take it with a grain of salt. Well, in a response to that, to be humorous, I would argue, people have driven by his home, and they've been doing this, and they film it themselves and then upload it on social media. Here's one such video.
Jim Walls, you tampon-loving retard!
Tampon-loving. His wife has got to be like, "Why did you have to do that? Why could you not have kept your mouth shut?" I wonder if she keeps those windows open like she did to smell the burning buildings during the Black Lives Matter riots. If she keeps those open so she can just take in.
She can hear everybody yelling.
So she can hear everyone yelling. What a joke this guy is. What an absolute embarrassing joke. The people of Minnesota. I'm going to have to check Real Clear Politics to see if there have been are there candidates running against him right now in a primary? I don't know the layout. I know he's running for re-election for governor. It's part of the reason that I suspect there's a good chance that the Democrats are going to potentially force him to bow out of that gubernatorial race because they don't want this attention. They because of the Somalia corruption.
Do you know who is actually running for Minnesota governor? Mike Lindell.
Oh, I did see. Yeah, I did see that. He's running as a Republican, right? Yeah, I saw that announcement last week. Oh gosh, I don't know how that's going to go for a number of reasons. I'm sure that's going to be a point of discussion. But yeah, they want this Somalia thing to go away, but I just don't think it's going to. One, because you have hundreds of government employees, which traditionally are big backers of Democrats, that are saying Tim Waltz is corrupt. Tim Waltz was threatening us for exposing this stuff. Tim Waltz is the problem. Not just part of the problem, but he is the problem. He knew about this. He covered it up. He kept it going. And with the combination of that and what I believe will be still yet to come revelations because of the Treasury Department doing their investigation, I just don't know that this is something that the Democrats are going to be able to simply say racism, because that right now is the card they're trying to play. Trump is racist. This is all racism. It has nothing to do with anything other than racism. And I don't know that that's going to fly to the point that they can just make this go away. And a decision's going to have to be made. Do they defend Tim Waltz? Do they defend all of this going into an election? Again, Amy Klobuchar, she's going to be running for president in just a couple of years. She's a Democrat that represents that state. She at some point is going to have to take some sort of stand as long as this continues to stay in the news. And is Tim Walz worth saving? Is he worth trying to save, I should say? I suspect they're going to do their polling. And much like Joe Biden's cognitive issues, it will all come down to electability and whether they believe supporting him is going to harm them, or is this something that's going to be harmful to him? Because it's like Democrats a lot of times they're like animals, and when one's wounded, they'll turn on them and just destroy them. And if Tim Walz gets to the point that he is wounded and he's going to slow down the pack, they'll turn on him and destroy him. So earlier better than later. You want to make those decisions far enough out that you can have a viable candidate in his place. And, there's still some time yet, but, these are decisions that I think are going to have to be made. I just don't believe this thing's going to go away. But aside from just the corruption, you just look at this guy. He's a clown. Oh, by the way, here's a story. Governor Tim Walz is promoting a new government assistance program open to illegal immigrants in Minnesota as he faces scrutiny for allegedly allowing statewide welfare fraud, reportedly committed primarily by Somali immigrants. Over a 12-week coverage period of one's choosing, the program, the PFML program, provides payments to Minnesota residents who purportedly need time away from work for, quote, serious health reasons, which of course is open for interpretation, or to take care of a family member, whether an infant or an ill relative. If an individual qualifies for both medical and family leave, they can, quote, double dip, as the Commerce Chamber puts it, and take off a total of 20 weeks or 5.5 months in a year. This is taxpayer funded. Claimants can also top off paid leave by using paid time off, sick days, and vacation hours in addition to their leave of absence, a mechanism known as supplemental payment. So in other words, a vast majority of an entire year, you don't even have to work. Based on income level, program beneficiaries will receive between 55 and 90% of their regular wages while on paid leave, with a maximum amount set at the state's average weekly wage, currently $1,423 per week. Walz, addressing a frequent question from critics at an event on Tuesday that announced applications are open for new parents, said, "Are we going to abuse the program? How disrespectful to people to assume that ailing Minnesotans are scamming. That's what I hear from critics all the time. I trust Minnesotans. Like you trusted the Somalis to the tune of over $1 billion? Your trust barometer doesn't appear to be calibrated." Walz insisted, "I believe they know you're not going to get rich, and it's not your full salary. You're not going to scam and take time off." Now, this is what I'm talking about, a guy being a clown. Doesn't mean he's not corrupt. You can be a corrupt clown. You are completely submerged in a scandal regarding fraud due to the ease with which people can get dollars from a government program, and you are out there loosening up rules and regulations to allow people, including illegal aliens, to get taxpayer funds through a government program. And then when people point out, hey, don't know if you noticed or not, but kind of got a corruption issue going on in this state, people taking advantage of stuff, he plays the how dare you card. He plays the it's ridiculous to believe anyone's going to scam the system card. What world are you living in? Saying he's excited about the paid leave program, Waltz continued to downplay any concerns raised most recently after the City Journal reported the criminal network operating out of Minnesota's Somali community was stealing welfare funds and funneling the money home to Somalia, an unknown amount of which ended up in the clutches of al-Shabaab, a Somalia-based terrorist group with ties to al-Qaeda. Employers under Tim Waltz's reign will be required to display a PFML poster at their respective workplaces to notify employees about the paid leave program. The poster must be displayed in any foreign language that is the primary language of at least 5 workers. Courtesy of the taxpayers, the posters are available in a variety of languages, including Spanish, Somali, Hmong, Albanian, Amharic, Arabic, Bosnia, Chinese. The list is a mile long. Some policy experts raising fraud-related concerns about bad actors abusing the paid leave program, of course, which Tim Waltz says that's ridiculous. There's no fraud. No fraud in Minnesota. No reason to believe the people of Minnesota would commit fraud. None. How dare you? How dare you? Says Tampon Tim. Again, I'm not saying that it is appropriate, that it's compassionate to utilize the word retarded to describe Tim Waltz. But the idea behind it, you can't really argue that Trump's too off base. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. The weather, it's pretty nice this week, so it's a good time to take advantage of that and get your heat all checked out and ready to go for the winter weather that lies ahead. Now, the Foreman team, they do residential and commercial services, and they can help you out whether you have a furnace, a boiler, a heat pump. If you've noticed that your heating system it's making odd noises every time it kicks on, maybe your house is a little bit cooler than previous years, or it's just been a while since you've had a cleaning or an inspection done, the Foreman team, they have got all of your HVAC needs covered. If it's time to have the Foreman team out to your home, reach out to Russell today. You can schedule your appointment at foremanmechanical.com, or if you forget that website, you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
All right, so regarding some of the latest revelations with this massive amount of fraud under Democrat rule in Minnesota, this is just, it's obvious. Ilhan Omar, well, her little orbit of people are all caught up in this. It's just shocking. Who would have thought? I read a piece last week from a Somali immigrant to, I believe it was Ohio. And he had started some organization, and he wrote about how this is a problem. And what has happened is the system of corruption in Somalia is simply being replicated in Minnesota. And the corruption is playing out the same way it played out in Somalia. He talked about in Somalia, well, this is the Somali community, this is normal to them. This is everyday stuff. You have this money flowing through the government, and it ends up getting funneled to nefarious actors, and anyone who blows the whistle, well, everyone just knows you keep your mouth shut. It's just the way it is. The politicians are all in on it. They're all, quote, bought off, and it may not be bought off with cash, but bought off with support. They know if you want to get support of the Somali community, then you have to facilitate this. You have to cover for this. You have to not be an obstacle to this, because otherwise we'll call you racist. We'll do exactly what it is that Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz and they're all doing. Anyone who is calling out this corruption is a racist. This is why assimilation is important. Because one of two things happens whenever you take two cultures or two people with different personalities get together. Eventually, one becomes more like the other. So when you import a significant number, enough to make an entire community, from one country to another, either those people are going to begin becoming of the culture to which they moved, or they are going to begin changing the culture of that new place. And clearly in Minnesota, the latter of the two is the case. The way that the corruption operates in Somalia is now the way that it's operating in Minnesota. Town Hall reporting Ilhan Omar has faced some heat over the massive billion-dollar fraud scandal in her home district, especially after it came to light that she has close ties to numerous people involved. Just a shocking coincidence, I'm sure. For example, one of her own staff members was convicted in the scandal already, and she held several parties at one of the key restaurants implicated in the money funneling. Omar also, this is perfect, but so Ilhan Omar, when she's been confronted, like, why did this happen? She goes, we just didn't have enough guardrails in place. Do you know who was responsible for removing a lot of those guardrails? Ilhan Omar. She co-sponsored the Meals Act, which relaxed U.S. Department of Agricultural requirements for child nutrition programs during the COVID pandemic, allowing fraudsters to steal $250 million in tax, through that particular program. And so what's so perfect about this is that specifically where she was saying, well, the COVID stuff and, some of those guardrails got removed. She's the one who co-sponsored the bill to do it. Bill Glann, a policy fellow with the Minnesota-based Center for the American Experiment, told the New York Post Omar knew who these people were. People she personally knew were making tens of millions of dollars in this program. She's been inside the Safari facility. That's one of the facilities that was instrumental in all of this fraud on numerous occasions, and she couldn't put two and two together. Either she's terminally naive or knew and didn't care. Well, of course we know. No, she knew. And she did care. She just didn't care in the way that she was supposed to. She was supposed to care in the way like, oh, this is bad. This is not supposed to be happening. We need to put a stop to it. That's not how she cared. She cared on behalf of those that were stealing the money. She cared on behalf of the people that she has said are her number one priority. She has said this before, that she is a representation of Somalia. Somalia first. And she's demonstrating that. As is Tim Walz. And apparently also a school in Vermont that decided in the midst of all of this to raise a Somalian flag outside of the school. The brazen embracement of complete and total corruption. Not to mention, do you know what they do in certain areas of Somalia to people that are accused or suspected of being homosexual? You know what the punishment is for that? It's execution. So for these left-wingers that love, like we saw at we had this discussion, the Roundtree Elementary and the Iranian flag, and, seemingly unconcerned with how Jewish people may feel about that. You got out in Vermont, this Somali flag, a country in which homosexuality is met with execution in certain areas of Somalia, and that's the flag that they raised there at a school in Vermont. So enlightened, these left-wingers who run these elementary schools are. Streaming live, KSGF.com, and, of course, on YouTube. You can watch us there as well as listen. Springfield's Talk 1041. News in 60 seconds.
Here's why you should switch from Google to DuckDuck.
Happy Honda Days underway. That's right. An opportunity to take advantage of incredible deals, including no payments for 90 days on new vehicles. That's, you can do the math. So December, January. I mean, we're pushing into March. March before you make your first payment. In addition to the incredible deals, Ridgeline, the 25 Ridgeline, $3,000 sales credit rates as low as 0.99%. Honda Pilot, 25, $1,500 sales credits, rates as low as 3.49%. There's all sorts of incredible leasing deals as well. Hybrid, if that is the sort of thing you're interested in, 51 miles per gallon on the 25 Honda Accord, financing as low as 3.99%. Financing, of course, all sorts of, got your terms and conditions that do apply, but it is an incredible time for incredible deals as they get those 25 models off the lot, making room for the 26, where, again, those leasing of deals are available. And pre-owned vehicles, sometimes still you can get interest rates just extremely low. I know we've seen them at 0.99%. The good folks over there with the Pinnaker family that can help you out. The good folks, Pinnaker Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. There's a new story with a new angle, if you will, regarding the massive amount of fraud that has occurred under Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, and other Democrats in Minnesota, and it's the impact on law enforcement. And Minnesota law enforcement folks are saying, listen, this stuff has real life consequences. While these dollars are being funneled to terrorist organizations and to line the pockets of these gangsters, we continue to lack the funding we need to deal with crime. And the defense coming from Waltz's people on this is somewhat hysterical, and that is, it hasn't affected you. That money was being stolen from sick people. Like, it was stolen from Medicaid. I don't know what you're. No, that is literally their defense. That there's nothing to see here. Quit your whining. It wasn't law enforcement that lost out on these dollars. It was just sick people it was being stolen from. This does, however, I think, put the focus on an area of this that doesn't get discussed. It's obvious Democrats, particularly in Minnesota, they don't want this story to stay relevant because of the potential legal implications. But they also, at the same time, part of that effort is to act as if, $1 billion, so what? It happens. We'll just make sure it doesn't happen again. Well, who's gone without? That was $1 billion, and they're saying that in all likelihood it's even more. That is $1 billion that was supposed to go elsewhere. What of those people? During Doge, how often did we hear stories about the estimations on the number of people that were going to die because of dollars that were not going to go to certain organizations to help those people because of Doge cuts? You'd hear a story about how, because of Doge cuts, $60 million that would go to this corner of the world in order to help here with the hungry people there or the unvaccinated there. And because that dollar amount is not going to go where it was supposed to go because of the Doge cuts, 2.8 million kids are going to die. Remember we'd hear these numbers? 60,000 people will die. Estimates say, this organization, this NGO claims that this many people will die because of the lack of dollars. Well, hundreds of millions of these dollars are supposed to feed kids. How many people went hungry because of this? How many people died? If we're talking about money, as, again, the defense from the Waltz camp here is, this isn't being stolen from law enforcement. It's from Medicaid. It's health. How many people died because of this? I really do think this is the catch-22 for Democrats on this. If you're going to argue that people were not harmed, that people did not suffer because over $1 billion taxpayer dollars that was supposed to go to them did not, then how can you argue it was needed in the first place? You can't claim that the absence of that $1 billion did no harm, but then claim that those dollars are desperately needed in order to help people. Which one? It's one or the other. And I have yet to hear any of these people pressed on it. The Ilhan Omars, the Tim Waltz. Why is this money? Why was that $1 billion necessary if you're claiming it not getting to where it was supposed to go did no harm? How much more money is being spent that if it went away would do no harm? That ought to be an area of focus. This could be a silver lining. The realization that, I guess people aren't harmed if all of those tax dollars go away after all. I suppose we don't need to continue to take that amount of money from our taxpayers, and we don't need to continue to spend that amount of money. Now, you and I understand, of course, that's not how it works, but that's reality. Coming up, one of the character traits that the left embodies, which provides entertainment for the rest of us, is their uncanny ability to not recognize what clearly is ridiculous in terms of, claims being made about Trump, the Trump administration. And there have been a number of efforts by people to prove how stupid Democrats can be by making just ludicrous claims just to watch them run with it. And one of the latest is regarding J.D. Vance, and the Democrats online are sharing a picture, which, I kid you not, is supposed to be, we're told, it is a recent picture of J.D. Vance and his wife. Because, they're obsessed with this idea that their marriage is on the rocks. They are circulating a photo that is said to be J.D. Vance in a public restaurant with his wife. He's wearing just an undershirt. So he's got no shirt on other than just an undershirt. And he is screaming at her so loudly, according to these reports, of which no video exists, that the entire restaurant fell silent. Now, the whole thing's just hysterical. J.D. Vance, of course, is having fun with it. So we'll get you all the deets on that here in just a couple of moments. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line is 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 48.
This your new favorite story, JD Vance, nuking reports about fight with wife.
I really like this one. I like his response. That's the best part of this whole thing.
The left, they live in this different world. It's a weird thing. And one of these obsessions they have, which I don't even understand really why they have the obsession, but they have it in their minds that JD Vance and his wife are just on the verge of ending it all. And it seems like it started because he hugged Erica Kirk.
Yeah.
That's where
it really started.
And they're like, no one hugs someone like, maybe people on the left don't, but normal people, when they're mourning, they do embrace. Because they said when she hugged him, she put her hand on the back of his head, which, again, I think normal people, particularly when you're grieving, that's not. And of course, she has hugged other people that way, including Uma. And that's her name, right? Uma? Usha, yeah, Usha. So, I mean, it's just, they see the weirdest things in normal behavior. And I suppose when you're abnormal, that's what happens. Normal behavior doesn't look normal to you. And then, she doesn't have her wedding ring on. She's not wearing her wedding ring. She's like, yeah, I have kids. Listen, I do the dishes and I change my kids and I take my ring off sometimes. So that's what, but again, that's normal stuff. That is something that any, mother of young children understand. Not that everyone, some people just absolutely never ever take a ring off. Some take it off, leave it off almost all the time other than going out. Some, it's a variation. But to the left, this obsession, which I don't even, it's like, even if it were, what difference does it make? I don't even understand why this obsession with their life. I don't get it. I mean, we're not talking about allegations of, well, I guess they claim that he's having an affair with Erica Kirk, yeah. I guess, based off of nothing other than their just delusion. So the latest is this photo that is circulating. And it's a close-in shot of, I guess it's supposed to be J.D. Vance. It looks like him, but wearing a white, just an undershirt. And he has a look on his face like he's angry. And then you see it like in the foreground, it's the sort of, I guess, the back of the head of someone that is supposed to be her, looking down like she's upset. Is that a good description, you think?
Yeah.
And it claims that it's in a restaurant that evidently this is supposed to be recent. And he's yelling at her. This is further proof that they are on the rocks. So this is what you're supposed to believe. And I kid you not, I'm telling you, Democrats believe this stuff. That the Vice President of the United States, who is trying to cover up his marriage troubles, decided to go eat in a public restaurant wearing no shirt other than just an undershirt. For whatever reason, decided, no, I'm wearing an undershirt as vice president to a public restaurant. And then decided to yell and scream and berate his wife in the middle of the restaurant to the point, according to what Democrats are saying, the restaurant fell silent.
Where are the videos of this? Where are the other photos, the other angles of this?
Yeah, and that photo, is that supposed to be a still from a video? Like, who would,
I don't know.
Who would, if that were occurring, I can't believe we're even entertaining this notion, but if that were occurring, instead of taking a video, you're like, oh no, I'll just take a picture of it instead. Yeah. Well, now, J.D. Vance, because he has a sense of humor. What was his post? Oh, he shared it, of course, and he said, quote, "I always wear an undershirt when I go out in public to have a fight loudly with my wife." And of course, everyone that has a sense of humor, Trump supporters, Vance supporters, they're retweeting it or resharing it. One of them I saw, someone said, this is the actual photo, and it's the meme face, the big chubby Cabbage Patch doll face of him. And that's it. But another noted that the only thing that was missing was a rolled up pack of cigarettes in the sleeve.
No, you couldn't have, because it was cut off.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, maybe it was there. I'm surprised they didn't make that claim. He's probably smoking, too. He's got a pack of smokes in that sleeve. You just can't see it. It was cut off. But we'll get the photo posted. These people vote. These are the people who stand on the side of the road protesting because they believe they are an authority on information, that they have a true sense of what is accurate and inaccurate, to the point that they want you to see them as enough of an authority on accurate information that you listen to their messaging. And they are so delusional that they go crazy over something. I want to know where the origins of this photo, because I believe it was done in an effort to once again mess with, to troll the left, and to show how stupid they are. This is right up there, and I know every time something like this happens, I bring up my very favorite trolling of the left, because the claim was so absurd, but the reaction from the left, including some people in the media, and that was during Trump's first term, and there was some book that was set to release that was, it was supposed to be about inside the Trump administration, an expose of sorts. Someone had posted what they claimed was an excerpt from the book. They claimed that they had gotten ahead of time, like excerpts from the book. You know, they'll release those things oftentimes first to people in the media. And so this was an individual who claimed that he had an excerpt of the book, and he posted it. And it was written as if, now, the book was real, but this excerpt was fake. And this was all done to troll the left. And it claimed that Donald Trump loved, there was the one thing he loved more than anything at all was watching TV shows about gorillas or orangutans or some sort of monkey. I think it was gorillas. And that he would spend hours every day eating cheeseburgers, sitting on the bed, I don't know if it's the Lincoln Room or wherever, watching movies of monkeys and gorillas, and that this was very concerning to his staff. They did not know how to get him to stop doing it, and the problem at one point they had was the fact that he felt that the monkeys weren't fighting enough, that he wanted to see more gorillas punching each other. So his staff like cobbled together. They got hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage of gorillas in their own habitat in zoos and everywhere, and then they edited the parts of them fighting each other and put them all together. And these were fake TV shows, according to what was supposed to be an excerpt from this book, that they made like a fake channel. And Trump, of course, he's an idiot, and so he didn't know any better, and he was so excited. There was I wish I'd printed this off. The book supposedly quoted him like yelling at the TV at the monkeys or something, or encouraging the monkeys. It was such a completely hysterical thing. But then people on the left believed it. There were a couple of media people. I don't think they were the actual anchors, but so, you know, like, oh, this person writes stories for MSNBC. They were individuals associated with news networks that were retweeting it at the time as like breaking news that this is what's going on in the Trump administration. And you really thought, they cannot believe this. They cannot be this stupid. They are that stupid. They are this stupid. And so while you and I, we see in this latest, the J.D. Vance photo floating around, just the entire scenario is so absurd. That's why I believe whomever made it up did so to make the left expose themselves once again as being stupid. And it, of course, is doing just that. The share that I saw was from some attorney, some left-wing attorney, posting this as evidence that, you know, see? Boy, their marriage is falling apart. I wish, wouldn't that be hilarious if J.D. Vance showed up in an event only wearing an undershirt? It's just to further lean into it. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. All right, we got a traffic update here, and then we'll have the. We're gonna. Sarah found the excerpts of that fake book excerpt that was back during the Trump first administration, being spread around by Democrats, and which they believed it to be true, which is why they spread it around. That's what's so funny. In which Trump, during the first administration, at one point became angry because he thought there was a guerrilla channel that they weren't getting, and so his staff made a fake guerrilla channel for him to watch. I'm telling you. It is I remember the day this came out and reading it and just laughing and then realizing Democrats actually believed it and people in the media as well. So we'll share some of that. And this is all coming up because remember the AOK thing? I mean, you go down the list of stuff people on the left believe that somebody just to troll on the left went on Reddit and claimed that the AOK sign you do with your hand, that was actually secret signaling between white supremacists because it's such a nefarious looking, hand signal. And people on the left believed it even when it was revealed that it was a joke just to troll them. They still held to this day. They will still claim that just because it was made up doesn't mean it's not true. Traffic update.
Fields Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see partly sunny skies with a high near 47. Tonight, cloudy with a low around 29. For your Thursday, sunny with a high near 55. And taking a look at Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 48.
We were laughing about the latest, and it's not really a conspiracy theory, but latest claim, I suppose, on the internet that Democrats are believing about J.D. Vance, and there's a photo being shared. I saw it shared from an attorney by the name of Natalie Whittingham Burrell. She's a Democrat attorney, activist, and she was sharing. There was a posting made by Thomas Clay Jr., whomever that is. And it's a picture of what looks like J.D. Vance wearing a white T-shirt. And then in the foreground is the back of the head of a woman. It looks like, I guess, what is supposed to be his wife with her head in her hands. And it reads, this is what it reads. Looks like things are not so good in Republicanistan. Usha is a liberal, always has been. Apparently they were having an argument loud enough to quiet the restaurant. Why is he wearing a T-shirt? And so this is supposed to feed into the fact that their marriage is on the rocks. And what you're supposed to believe is that the vice president of the United States decided to go eat at a public restaurant wearing nothing but an undershirt and had a screaming fit, yelling at Usha so loudly in the restaurant the whole place quieted. That's what you're supposed to believe. And by the way, there's not a single video of it anywhere. Now, I don't know if this is a photo of him in a different setting or if this is Photoshop AI or if this is someone that looks like I'm not sure. But clearly the story is ridiculous. The left falls for this stuff all the time. And one of it is my favorite. Because of the elaborate nature of it, was during his first term, and there was some book that was coming out about the inside story of the Trump White House, and someone, to troll the left, released what they claim was an excerpt of the book before it came out. And the excerpt itself was so hilarious. But then on top of that, Democrats, including people in the media, began sharing it, believing it was real. So Sarah found the excerpt that this troll posted claiming it was out of this book.
Okay, I'll try to read this without laughing. On his first night in the White House, President Trump complained that the TV in his bedroom was broken because it didn't have the Gorilla channel. Trump seemed to be under the impression that a TV channel existed that screened nothing but gorilla-based content 24 hours a day. To appease Trump, White House staff compiled a number of gorilla documentaries into a makeshift gorilla channel broadcast into Trump's bedroom from a hastily constructed transmission tower on the South Lawn. However, Trump was unhappy with the channel they had created, moaning that it was boring because the gorillas aren't fighting. Staff edited out all of the parts of the documentaries where gorillas weren't hitting each other, and at last the president was satisfied. On some days, he'll watch the Gorilla Channel for 17 hours straight, an insider told me. He kneels in front of the TV with his face about 4 inches from the screen and says encouraging things to the... He says encouraging things to the gorillas, like, the way you hit that other gorilla was good. I think he thinks the gorillas can hear him. End quote.
I love the simplicity. The way you hit the other gorillas is good.
He thinks the gorillas can hear him.
Now, like I said, that is hysterical, but then you add on to it, Democrats reshared it as legitimate, including some of the media at the time. It's beyond ignorant. It's beyond even stupid. I don't even know. It is I think deranged may be the best term. And these are the people that we are really supposed to listen to on policy, on dealing with terrorism, on dealing with the economy. These people are bat blank crazy. They're nuts. They are really out of touch with all things reality based. And there's no embarrassment or shame when it's exposed that they're completely wrong on this stuff. When I say these folks live in a different world, I don't know that you fully comprehend and appreciate the level at which they do live in a completely different world. Now, let's see, which direction did I want to go? We talked a lot about J.D. We talked a lot about Waltz and Vance and Newsom today. The War Department has confirmed 87 narco-terrorists, or as Democrats call them, shipwrecked survivors, have been killed. The top War Department official telling Just the News that the airstrikes ordered by Trump on drug-running boats in the Caribbean have killed 87 terrorists. And she also is repudiating one of America's most famous news outlets for scummy reporting on the subject, Kingsley Wilson, sharply criticizing the Washington Post for that false report that Hegseth had suggested killing survivors of a boat in. But it is almost parody. It's talking about the stuff that Democrats believe, and the J.D. Vance thing in the restaurant, and hearkening back to the first administration, and Trump believing there was a guerrilla channel and spent 17 hours a day watching it, and encouraging the monkeys to fight each other through the TV screen, and so forth. And then you transition to the story of the Washington Post, where Pete Hegseth said, go back and just kill any survivors. And when you're in that mental mind mode of the parody stuff, it all is parody. It's laughable. It's cartoonish. Pete Hegseth, like, yeah, and he survived. Kill them all. Just kill them all. So the number, according to the administration, is 87. You know what? Given the fact that the Democrats have relabeled the terrorists as being fishermen or shipwrecked fishermen or shipwrecked survivors, you know what? These protesters, these left-wing protesters, they need to go start protesting around Captain D's. Because, I mean, what is going to happen to the Captain D's of the country if the Trump administration continues to illegally murder these poor, innocent fishermen that are simply out there trying to catch fish so that we can all enjoy the nourishment of the sea? And I'm waiting to see the reports about how this is going to add to inflation of fish. That now we are going to, on top of the tariff inflation that we were supposed to see and all of these other economic calamities at the hands of Donald Trump, now he's going to cause the price of fish sticks to skyrocket because he and Pete Hegseth together, while not watching TV shows about gorillas fighting each other, are out there targeting poor, innocent fishermen. A member of MS-13 gang, who is believed to have overseen a kill squad and is linked to the killing of the son of the former president of Honduras, was arrested in Nebraska on Monday, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Gerson Emir Quadrasoto, 33, also known as Phantasma, was detained on Monday on immigration-related charges. He's believed to have overseen an MS-13 kill squad called El Combo, which is designed to carry out assassinations on behalf of the gang. In his home country of Honduras, he's been charged with 4 homicides for which he was imprisoned. So all you Democrats, you got your new celebrity cause here. Let's see. So he was hanging out in Nebraska, and he was in charge of a kill squad. So what do we got? Clearly a Nebraska guy. I mean, he's Nebraskan, a social club leader, maybe social club leader from Nebraska. I'm sure that the Democrats will come up with some very cozy name as they take to defense for this MS-13 assassin. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company. I was chatting with Joshua last week, and he was telling me that door knockers, they are out and about, and they are now targeting areas that haven't even had storm damage, and they are using scare tactics, and the people are filing claims, and it's forcing them to have a claim history, and they're still not getting a roof replacement. Don't fall victim to that. The Pyramid team, they will definitely shoot you straight. They do free roof inspections, and they're very thorough. They use an app to determine if severe storms that could potentially cause damage have went through your area. And then, of course, they get up there, they check around your skylights, the chimney, the vents, and they even do an attic inspection, and they check your decking as well. They take tons of photos and videos so you can see exactly what they see, and then they work with you and your insurance company without making you sign anything. If it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today and schedule that free roof inspection. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I want to go back, kind of bounced around during the show today, but the Minnesota corruption there. And every day new revelations. The shock to end all shock. Ilhan Omar surrounded by people who have been implicated in this. One of her explanations for the fact that at last count over $1 billion of fraud occurring was that, well, just with COVID, we didn't have the guardrails in place. The guardrails were removed by legislation that she co-sponsored. Of course, Tim Walz's play in this, and the hundreds, literally hundreds of whistleblowers that are saying, we've been saying this. In fact, they showed the, quote, receipts where they contacted the Kamala Harris campaign when they learned Tim Walz was a possible vice presidential candidate for her to tell her, you don't want to do this. This guy is corruption. Money that we are supposed to have in order to feed hungry children and to treat autistic kids, he instead is allowing to go to Somali, drug lords and to terrorism and to corrupt people and their lavish lifestyles. Everyone knew what was going on. The feds began tagging some of these people, and it started to get some attention. There is an interesting, it's a development that occurred some time ago, but the timing of it is creating a potentially uncomfortable position for the Democrats in all of this. Now, I noted that Tim Walz is running for re-election, and the Democrats are obviously hoping that this will just go away, but it doesn't have the signals that it will, just because of other investigations that are going on, the Treasury Department looking into this. And they have to make a decision as they go into the midterms. Do we continue to defend Tim Walz, to defend Ilhan Omar, to defend all of this while we are trying to convince the American people that you want to put us back in charge? Or do they cut him loose? Do they cut her loose and say, yep, this is horrible, this is not who we are as a party, and just try to cut him loose to make it all go away? Add this component into it. You have the extreme left-wing attorney general of Minnesota. His name's Ellison. And well before any of this stuff came to light, his office was prosecuting Medicaid fraud. And this is a carbon copy of everything that we've been hearing about. Now, the individual that the jury months ago would find guilty is somewhat, his name is Abdelfattah Youssef. I've tried, not a massively deep dive, but I've looked up numerous articles trying to determine, was this an American-born individual? Is he Somali? Is he from Somalia? I could not find it. His origins aren't what are as important as just the fraud element here. And then what has happened subsequent to the jury finding him guilty, and his wife as well. So the jury found, and this was the state of Minnesota, Attorney General, Democrat, that had been pursuing this case. And eventually a jury found that Youssef and his wife Lula Ahmed ran a deceitful Medicaid fraud scheme out of a mailbox at the so-called medical company and used the money for lavish shopping sprees, including trips to name brand and designer stores like Coach, Canada Goose, Nike, Michael Kors to purchase high-end cars according to prosecutors. In a shocking twist of events, this is a couple of weeks ago. So the timing of this is funny because it's right before all of this really started to get a lot of attention and attraction. In a shocking twist of events, and months after Youssef was found responsible for directing the massive scam, Judge Sarah West, an appointee of Tim Walz, decided that the jury was wrong and he should be let off the hook. She defended her choice by stating that the case, quote, relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that the state of Minnesota did not rule out other potential reasonable inferences. Her decision to overturn the case, which is extremely rare, especially in criminal cases, has ignited a firestorm, not just for the general public, but for the jurors who sealed his fate. The foreperson told KARE 11 News, quote, I am shocked. I am shocked based off of all the evidence that was presented to us and the obvious guilt that we saw based off of the evidence. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. The deliberations took probably only 4 hours at most. Based off of the state's evidence that was presented, it was absolutely beyond any reasonable doubt, he said. Another juror in the case echoed that stance, telling the outlet, quote, we didn't take our job lightly. We went through a lot of evidence and discussed a lot, took our time, but we all came to an agreement pretty easily. Local politicians have also been left outraged over the decision, including State Rep Kristen Robbins, quote, I was stunned. We want to strengthen state law so that we can get prosecutors out of these cases because clearly a jury thought he was guilty. Or get prosecutions, rather. Despite now ruling in favor of the once convicted fraudster, West noted she is still troubled by the manner in which fraud was able to be perpetrated at Promise Health. In response to West's decision, the Attorney General's office, run by Democrat Keith Ellison, filed an appeal on Monday. It is rare for prosecutors to appeal an acquittal, but this case is unique because it overturns the jury's final decision. While many people are up in arms about the acquittal, Youssef's attorney, of course, says he's very grateful. And like I said, I don't know if this individual also is from Somalia. Aside from that fact, though, this is very interesting and problematic timing potentially for Democrats because prior to all of this becoming some sort of massive issue, you had this case underway, and Ellison he's a Democrat attorney general in Minnesota, and he had been prosecuting it, and this was months ago the jury found the guy guilty, and just in the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden the judge, in an unprecedented move, said, you know what, I don't think so. I don't really think that, I think it was just all circumstantial, and so he should not have been found guilty. You want to talk about signs of something going on there? Some form of corruption? And the jurors saying this wasn't a difficult decision. This was obvious. This was very obvious. This did not take it. There was so much evidence. So now Ellison, of course, he filed the appeal, but all of that timing was just right before all of this other fraud stuff really blew up. And so this puts Ellison in kind of an interesting position because he's already filed appeal. He has expressed outrage over this. Well, now that is a little bit inconvenient and uncomfortable for Democrats who have been exposed as being part of all of this corruption in Minnesota. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, can't stress enough what an absolute just enhancement having Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor create an outdoor living space for you. I'd say ours is relatively modest. I mean, it's great. It does exactly what it needs to for us. It's a great place for us to sit around. You know, you get these cold days and nights, and it's getting a little too cold for it, but still it looks like some of our temperatures maybe in the mid-50s. You can have that nice outdoor fire, sit around, drinking some hot cocoa or some wassail, should you want to, in the smokeless fire pit. But maybe you want an outdoor living space that you can have covered, and you can have outdoor plumbing, and you can have some form of climate control even when it gets a little bit too cold, or something simple, and landscaping as well. Springtime is what you're aiming for here because of their high demand. They are booked up for jobs until about that point. So spring's a great time to have this sort of project done. I would reach out to them now, or at least visit the site. There's a cost estimation calculator, give you a sense of what you're looking at. And hey, maybe you're going to get any sort of tax return. What a great investment in your home and the overall quality of life for you, having another outdoor living space. From Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, you can find them under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Reminder that, of course, we are going to be out at Scramblers on Friday, and Eric Burleson, Congressman Burleson, he's going to have some of the folks from his office out there buying breakfast for people while we're out there from 6A to 9A. If you have a Burleson bumper sticker on your car. If not, don't worry. They'll get you hooked up with one. A T-shirt as well if you'd like, and they're going to be, again, buying you free breakfast this